We've played you that video multiple times now showing a father at a Loudoun County School Board meeting being tackled and arrested by police back in June. Well, it turns out that father, Scott Smith, had every right to show up at that meeting and cause a scene. Smith alleges that weeks before he was arrested, his daughter was sexually assaulted by a gender-fluid individual in a school bathroom. Even more infuriating, the district tried to cover up the assault to further its transgender rights agenda. And now Scott Smith's understandable outrage has turned him into the left's poster child for a right-wing domestic terror situation. Joining me now is the investigative reporter who broke this story, the Daily Wire's Luke Rosiak. Luke, appreciate you being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Just for anybody who hasn't had a chance to read your article, which goes into some depth and detail about this, and again, some really strong work from you pulling all these facts together, what do people need to know about what happened leading up to the actual school board meeting that we just showed the video of?
On May 28th, Scott Smith's daughter was allegedly sexually assaulted in a bathroom at school by a boy wearing a skirt. That person was charged with forcible sodomy. Now, that meeting was on June 22nd, and the focus of discussion was a transgender policy that would involve bathrooms, and a lot of people were opposed to the policy. The superintendent told the public that they were afraid of, quote, a red herring because Time magazine told him there was no such thing as a, quote, transgender predator. Additionally, he said Loudoun County's own records showed that the school system had never had any bathroom assault. And so Scott Smith is sitting there in the audience thinking, just 3 weeks ago, the police were called to my school. My daughter was taken to the hospital and a rape kit was administered, and you're all up here lying. It's like, I thought you believed all women. And so he's getting very angry in the crowd, and eventually he says a leftist activist said, why are you here? And implying that he's a bigot. And he said, he tried to explain to her what happened to his daughter. And he says that leftist activist, a neighbor of his, said, I don't believe you. And that's when, he got so mad that the cops put his hands on him. Pretty soon they were tussling. He was ultimately charged with disorderly conduct. So, yeah, I mean, he's played all over the news since as kind of unruly, blue-collar, white man showing up at school board meetings to cause a scene. I think a lot of dads would say he was a lot more restrained than many of us would have been in that situation.
How did the Loudoun County school officials at the school where this assault of a 9th grade girl took place, allegedly by this gender fluid individual wearing a skirt who was also a student, how did the school react to that? And also, what did they do when the father initially tried to bring to their attention that this assault had occurred?
So he and his wife got a call from the school saying that his daughter had been physically assaulted in the bathroom by a boy. And when he got to school, he determined it was much worse than that. The daughter wasn't beat up. It was something much worse. And so he demanded that they take it seriously, and he said they weren't. And he got so mad, he caused a scene in the front office. They called the police on him. Now, Loudoun County put out a statement today trying to get out ahead of all the anger that they've received for this story, saying, we did call the police that day, and they made it seem like they called the police for the sexual assault. But if you read the statement carefully, it seems like this could really fit them calling it on him. And in fact, I have an email from the principal that's in my original story in the Daily Wire, where the principal sent an email to this entire student body that day saying, you may have seen students police on campus. I want you to know the reason they were here was because of an incident that was confined to the main office, and no students, the safety of the student body was not jeopardized. So now the Loudoun County schools are trying to say that they called the cops, but at the time, they explicitly said the reason the police were there was because of Smith causing a scene. It was the parent who was the problem, not the rape. And they didn't tell anyone in the public that this had occurred. And so, fast forward until a week ago, the same kid was arrested for the sexual assault of another girl.
So now there have been 2 sexual assaults allegedly by the same individual, gender fluid individual at this high school. The first one, it seems, the school administration tried to cover up. Is that fair? I mean, how have prosecutors in the county, in Loudoun County, reacted to this situation?
So the student was being charged with forcible sodomy in the May incident. The problem is that the school system didn't tell anyone. They put out a statement based that implies that nothing ever happened that day. And then at the school board meeting 3 weeks later, they affirmatively told the public there's no bathroom assaults of any kind in our whole school system. And so absolutely, they were denying that this ever happened. While there were a criminal investigation going on that ultimately resulted in the kid was expected to plead guilty tomorrow, actually. October 14th, he was expected to plead guilty to felony sex crimes in connection with the May incident. But in between there, they didn't want anyone to find out. They passed their trans school policy. They arrested the dad for showing up at the school board meeting, and they banned him from the school board, where they have the school board meetings, which prevented him from having any chance of telling the school board in front of the public, actually, there's a reason why people may have concerns about this trans policy. So prosecutors were dealing with the first rape. The issue is the school system's handling of it. However, there's also an issue with the prosecutors. When they arrested Scott Smith for the video you played of him kind of, being disorderly, the prosecutor, who's a far left, one of these Soros-funded reformer types that wants to end, mass incarceration, she personally showed up to prosecute his case, and she tried to put him in jail for disorderly conduct, which is unheard of. So while they're trying to ram this transgender policy down onto this community where a lot of people don't want it, they're literally trying to put the father of an alleged rape victim in jail.
We actually have some video here of Loudoun County school officials seemingly attempting to cover up the assault.
Do we have assaults in our bathrooms or our locker rooms regularly?
To my knowledge, we don't have any records of assaults occurring in our restrooms. The issue of assaults taking place or transgender students assaulting other students in the restroom, Time magazine in 2016 called that a red herring. Predator transgender student or person simply it does not exist.
Does not exist, he says, Luke. That seems like a lie for the school superintendent to say that at that hearing.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine how Scott Smith felt. And there was 250 people signed up to speak that night, most of them against the policy. Some of them were in favor of it, but a lot of those people were saying the people who are against this are filled with hate. They're bigots. They hate. And, there was a caricature going on. There was a demonization of half or whatever percentage of the community that led to no one listening to Scott when he had something to say. And you played the video, which a lot of people haven't, where you can hear on that video, and the media has had that video for a long time. They say while he's getting arrested, his wife screams out, "My daughter was raped in school and this is what happened." So Scott was trying to get people to listen to him, and they had this idea of him instead that he was there because he's a bigot, or as the National School Board Association later said, he's one of these parents that could be potential domestic terrorists. There's a real anger right now, and there's anger for a good reason, because the schools have been run for the benefit of politicians who are trying to push a political agenda, and our kids are just a way to do it. They've been run for the career advancement of school administrators who are willing to do things that harm kids to protect their own careers, especially when there's bad things going on. They don't want you to find out. They'll hide it. There's the teachers unions that shut down schools for a year to the detriment of kids. And so it's been something to watch people get involved in schools, because this is an area where we can make a difference. Our voice as individual Americans, it may not count for much when it comes to a presidential election, but man, there's good reason to get involved in your local schools, because this isn't just happening in Loudoun. Loudoun just happens to be getting a lot of media coverage on it.
Thank you so much, Luke, for your work on this and for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Buck.